This is Good Evening San Diego.
Former President Donald Trump pleading not guilty in a federal courtroom in Washington, D.C. today. He faces charges of conspiring to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and prosecutors also alleging his actions fueled the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. He is being arraigned on 4 felony charges. You see them there. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding, obstructing a congressional proceeding, and conspiracy against voting rights. Trump's legal team has slammed the indictment as election interference. It's timed to the 2024 presidential campaign, they say. The former president and his motorcade leaving the courthouse, arriving at Reagan National Airport about 10 minutes after the hearing. He spoke with reporters on the tarmac before boarding his plane.
This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him. We can't let this happen in America. Thank you very much.
So the next court appearance for Donald Trump is August 28th. Joining us now in studio to weigh in on the indictment is criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj. Great to see you again, Vic. How are you?
Great to see you, Logan. My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's talk about the hearing first. It seemed like it was just kind of your ordinary hearing, aside from the fact that this was a former president being indicted. But did anything stand out to you as being a surprise?
Nothing at all. I mean, these arraignments in federal court really address the issue of detention or whether you're going to remain at liberty. Is the person a threat to society? Is the person a flight risk? If the answer to both of those questions is no, then you just have a personal bond, which is what President Trump had, and now he has to come on back August 28th, at which time the assigned district judge, not the magistrate, will set a motion hearing schedule as well as a potential trial date.
So when you look at these 4 charges, it's essentially defrauding the United States, it's obstruction, it's alleged obstruction, conspiracy to obstruct. They talk about a lot of lies and his knowledge. What of those charges do you feel is the most damaging to Trump? What would be the most difficult one to, I guess, defend against?
In a way, President Trump is in a very simplistic situation. His defense is concurrent, it's consistent, there's a consensus amongst all the charges, his First Amendment right to free speech. And if you look at the charges, Logan, just examine it from a bird's eye point of view. These are failed attempts. Usually in federal court, we have conspiracy to distribute drugs, conspiracy to rob the government or defraud the government of certain things. But they're completed conspiracies, therefore there's a crime. What we're not really paying attention to so far is this is a charging document that says you tried to commit a crime, but you lost and you didn't do it. We're still going to charge you with the attempt on a conspiracy basis. It's a very unique theory.
There are 6 alleged co-conspirators. Some are attorneys. I believe Rudy Giuliani, it's believed that he is one of them. Tell me how that impacts what we're seeing here. Are they going to be charged? Are they just going to be used to try to go up against Trump? How is that going to play out?
When you have unnamed co-conspirators in a federal indictment, that signals one of 2 things. Number one, it's a signal to the unnamed co-conspirator. You better come on over to the Department of Justice and make a deal and sing for your supper now before we name you and indict you. Or number 2, to the defense, in this case of Donald Trump's defense, we now know who these people are. They've already gone in to make a deal with the government. The real problem with this indictment from a bird's eye view, constitutionally speaking, our right to an attorney is significantly impinged here. We have a growing trend of attorneys being indicted under a crime, fraud, or conspiracy exception. This really withers the relationship between a defendant or any client and their attorney. This is an ongoing trend, and somehow, some way, it absolutely needs to stop because it cripples and handicaps anyone under investigation.
Is his defense essentially that he's allowed to say what he wants under the First Amendment, and that applies to all 4 charges and those other indictments as well, possibly?
That's part and parcel to the entire mosaic. The entire mosaic also includes, in addition to what you just astutely pointed out, the fact that he believed certain things. Now, let's remember, this is a circumstantial case. We have witnesses, according to the speaking indictment, that say, I told Donald Trump X, Y, and Z. I told him 1, 2, and 3. Therefore, he should have known. Now, the defense will undoubtedly take a look at it and say, well, who's the decision maker? Donald Trump is the decision maker, then President Donald Trump, who's allowed to take everything under submission and say, well, I don't read the Constitution that way, Vice President. I don't read the Constitution that way, Attorney General of a certain state. I think you have the right to do certain things. So circumstantial evidence combined with his First Amendment right to free speech and under the umbrella of proving what his intent was in his own mind, these all combine into a very difficult recipe, I believe, for the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
What do the lawyers do now up until the next court appearance, and what happens at that next court appearance?
Right now, you can bet the lawyers are in a war room, as we call it, when we have a very complex case, deciding which motions should be filed. We've already heard whispers of attempting to have the judge grant a motion to change venue in this case because D.C. may not be the best thing for the defense. There will undoubtedly be motions to compel discovery. Judge, I want X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z, most importantly, will be all the statements of the named and unnamed co-conspirators and percipient witnesses. Now, let's not forget, as we talked about earlier, Logan, in the federal arena, we don't have an absolute right to all discovery the way we do in state court. So we have to ask for that politely and sometimes forcefully to have the judge order all the discovery, meaning police reports, audio, video, surveillance, and whatever else is out there in the world, to be turned over to the defense so they can mount an effective defense in a case like this.
When do you think this might go to trial if all goes according to plan?
Well, we've heard Special Counsel Jack Smith say a number of times he wants it moving quickly. Well, obviously he wants it moving quickly. Why does he want it moving quickly? The elephant in the room is the election next year. Well, if that's not a reason to move a case quickly, you have to allow the defense to provide effective assistance of counsel, to have all of these issues of discovery, privileges, potential immunity, deals that were cut with other witnesses, all presented to the defense. I would be hard-pressed to believe that this case sees a jury before the next election.
All right. Vikas Bajaj, criminal defense attorney. Thank you, Vic.
Thank you, Logan.
Appreciate you coming by.
My pleasure.